As of 5:30 p.m. on Monday, September 28th, the Los Angeles Clippers have officially let go of Doc Rivers. The two reportedly separated ways, but I mean, who would want a coach that just blew a 3-1 lead when you're a championship caliber team to a European center? No, not that guy. This guy. Yeah, him. The milk bag. Look, I get it. Nikola Jokic, he's probably one of the greatest offensive centers in the game today. But when you're a championship caliber team, not acceptable. So what's next? You know, as a Clippers fan, to say I was upset would be a very, very kind way of putting it, watching that final Game 7. But, I mean, I kind of saw this coming. I would have thought that the Clippers would have tried to run it back and keep everybody, including Doc Rivers, kind of there and just go for it one more time because, look, I understand being in the bubble, that's a different circumstance that, you know, you wouldn't normally face. So maybe that would have kind of extended the stay for Doc Rivers, but obviously after 7 years, they've decided to let go of him. It's not like I'm surprised. I mean, after 7 years, you've never made the conference finals, having two teams in both the Lob City era Clippers and then obviously this current day Clippers era that are championship caliber teams, and they should have made the conference finals at the very least. Not really acceptable. One of my biggest takeaways when watching the game was seeing Doc just kind of sitting on the sidelines. He wasn't getting up, he wasn't in players' faces, he wasn't trying to inspire the team, he wasn't being a leader that honestly sometimes you need in a coach. And yes, I get it, you have Kawhi Leonard who's a superstar, you have Paul George who's a superstar or just an all-star, it depends on how you put him in a certain category, but you know, sometimes you need your coach to step up and kind of push those players to be better, because there is no reason you should have blown a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets. It's just not acceptable. So what's next? What's next for the Clippers? What's next for Doc Rivers? My opinion, maybe he sits a year out. Maybe he just kind of sees how the landscape of the NBA goes. But, you know, this guy is a championship winning head coach. He did win with the Celtics. In first thought, and thinking about the Philadelphia 76ers, I think he is a guy that could probably get a lot out of Joel Embiid, who honestly just hasn't lived up to the potential that he actually can show, I think, night in and night out, as well as Ben Simmons. I think that Ben Simmons in a grit and grind Doc Rivers system would actually work pretty well because he understands that Ben's not a shooter and he wouldn't rely on him to do that. Another thought for me would be the Atlanta Hawks staying over in the East as long as, you know, Philly didn't want him. I think Atlanta would be another great option for him. Doc Rivers did play a year for the Los Angeles Clippers back in the day. When I think of Doc Rivers and his playing time, it's the Atlanta Hawks. That's where he spent a majority of his career. You know, the Atlanta Hawks are a young team out in the East. I think that they have what it takes, you know, to make the playoffs, first of all, but maybe to be a competitor. The East has a lot of different teams, a lot of different possibilities. Obviously, this year we're seeing Miami kind of take a resurgence. Milwaukee, does Giannis stay? Does Giannis leave? Toronto is another team that's up in the air. Will they be as competitive? Obviously, you have a team in Brooklyn that's on the rise, and Miami as well, like I mentioned, that's on the rise. But Atlanta's got a young team, and they don't really have a solid head coach, so I think Atlanta would be a good possibility for Doc. But I do think Doc, you know, internally probably wants to prove himself, wants to prove that yes, he is a championship winning coach. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it done in, you know, the Clippers organization, but maybe he wants to prove himself somewhere else. Now, what's next for the Los Angeles Clippers? Where do they go? Who do they hire? They have an assistant coach in Ty Lue, former championship winning head coach. You know, I know people will make the argument that he coached LeBron. It doesn't really count as a coach because LeBron is the one that makes all the moves, but Ty Lue has been kind of heavily touted by the Philadelphia 76ers before Mike D'Antoni was let go, and now before Doc Rivers was let go. So it's possible that they could just kind of bring him up, even if it's just for the year. But now that I'm saying that the Clippers are not a just for a year team, it's next year you're winning the chip, or you're at least trying to make a run to the NBA Finals, because both Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are done next year. That's it. Their contract is up. they have a player option, but most likely they're going to decline it. Even if they come back, you want to give them a space to come back where they feel that they can be successful and, you know, win a title, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You need to win a title. So I think bringing in a head coach that is about winning, that's going to, you know, prove results today and not tomorrow, is very important. You got a guy in Jeff Van Gundy who's out there, who's been an analyst for some time. Maybe he comes back and is a head coach. Like I said, maybe Ty Lue gets elevated up into a head coach position. I don't think Mike D'Antoni fits the system of the Los Angeles Clippers. He's more of a, you know, he created the 7 seconds or less style, so I don't think that he fits into that system, but it'll be interesting to see what they do, and it'll be a new offseason for the Clippers, because I think besides the coaching change that I think was just about inevitable, there's more changes coming. Obviously, I don't think it's a Kawhi or Paul George trade, but I think one of the biggest pieces that they need is an actual playmaker. Look, I'm a Pat Bev guy. His jersey hangs right there. He's probably my favorite player on the team just because of the heart and soul, but they need a playmaking point guard. So they need to figure that out. They've already made the first move, getting rid of their coach. So we'll see what's next. Stay tuned. Peace.